thrown out of her home as a teenager, accused of unforgivable acts she never committed, all because of malicious lies spread by her own twin brother. While he basked in praise as the golden child, she bore the weight of rejection and betrayal, cast aside by the very people meant to protect her. But what began as abandonment became the foundation of her greatest triumph. Against all odds, she rebuilt her life from the ground up, carving out success and recognition through sheer resilience and determination. Years later, as she stood at the pinnacle of her achievements, her parents, the ones who discarded her, returned. Not with apologies, not with regret, but with demands. They wanted her to fund the renovation of the very house she was exiled from. This isn't just a story of survival. It's a confrontation with a toxic legacy, a fight for self-respect, and the ultimate reckoning with a past that refuses to let go. How do you respond when those who betrayed you come back, not to make amends, but to ask for what they never gave?
Kicked out as a teen for false rumors spread by my brother. Years later, parents see my success and demand money after they abandon me. I'm a 28-year-old woman with a twin brother. Growing up, our parents treated us very differently. They seemed certain that my brother was destined for greatness, while I was labeled the black sheep just because I loved playing sports and making new friends more than studying. They always compared us, which hurt my self-esteem from a young age. On our birthdays, my brother had big parties with his friends, while I was treated like an afterthought. He often had sleepovers, but I was never allowed to bring my friends home. Honestly, I hated every minute of my childhood. The only person who cared about me was my grandmother. When she visited, she'd bring me my favorite chocolates and sometimes slip me a little money so I could treat myself. As years went by, the favoritism toward my brother turned into emotional abuse against me. My parents mocked my grades and put down my hobbies. No matter how hard I tried, I could never meet their expectations. Even though I was good at sports, they wouldn't let me join any teams because they wanted me to focus only on studying, like my brother. It was frustrating, and I felt helpless. In my sophomore year, I got grounded again, this time for having Snapchat on my phone. I hadn't done anything wrong. Like most teens, I downloaded the app to stay in touch with friends, but my parents saw it as a huge crime and a breach of trust since they had forbidden me from talking to my friends. They went crazy, throwing my things around the room. They even took my door off its hinges and told me I'd have no privacy as long as I lived under their roof. Instead of supporting me, my brother made things worse. The toxic environment our parents created let him take advantage. He started lying about me, accusing me of things I never did, so he could get away with everything. If he stole something, he'd blame me, and our parents, already believing the worst about me, accepted his lies. He put me down in front of my friends at school and made fun of how I looked. Despite that, I had lots of friends because I was friendly and liked meeting people. My twin struggled socially and started to resent that I could make friends easily while he felt awkward. His jealousy boiled over on our 14th birthday when none of his friends showed up. I don't know why they did that to him, but my friends took me out for ice cream and I had a great day. This made my brother even angrier. To get revenge, he started spreading false rumors about me at school, saying I was a spoiled brat. He told everyone that I was physically abusing him at home because our parents loved him more. Without me knowing, he took things to a scary level. He'd punch himself, giving himself black eyes or bruises. Then he'd go to school showing off these injuries as proof that I was hurting him, and he'd make up stories. When our parents asked about his injuries, he'd lie, saying he got them playing football with friends. His lies and supposed black eyes started to catch people's attention, and they began to believe his twisted version of events. Soon, whispers spread, and even my friends started to look at me suspiciously. At first, I noticed small changes. Friends who used to talk to me in the hallways became distant. Invitations to hang out became rare. It was like a switch had been flipped, and people didn't want to be around the girl accused of violence. One day, I gathered the courage to ask my former best friend why things had changed. She told me my brother had been spreading rumors about me, accusing me of things I'd never done. I was shocked. I felt disbelief and betrayal. like the ground had fallen away beneath me. My own brother was lying about me, accusing me of things I'd never dream of doing. It hurt deeply. I confronted him at school the next day, but he ignored me. I begged him to stop, but he just smirked and said I deserved to be alone. I didn't know what to say. His lies and behavior were starting to scare me. I wanted to tell my parents, but I was afraid they'd believe him over me. The isolation hurt, especially since I'd always been friendly. It felt like his jealous lies were destroying the friendships I'd built. Teachers started hearing the rumors too. It felt surreal, like I was living in a world where my real self was overshadowed by my brother's lies. The rumors had grown beyond gossip. They were changing how people really saw me. The rumors reached the principal, and my worst nightmare came true. He called me, my brother, and our parents into his office to discuss the accusations. I sat there, heart pounding, hoping my brother would tell the truth. But instead, he stuck to his lies. He told the principal that the rumors were true, painting me as a bully who beat him up when our parents weren't around. I couldn't believe it. Shock washed over me as he spun this twisted story about me being angry that our parents loved him more. It was all lies, but he stuck to his story. My mom started to cry, holding my brother like he was a hero. My dad comforted him, saying it was brave to speak up and that he'd make sure nothing happened to him. I tried to defend myself, pleading with the principal that it was all made up. I felt like I was drowning in accusations, desperately trying to stay afloat, but my brother kept insisting I was angry and violent, taking out frustrations on him every day. My mom kept crying, holding him and giving me accusing looks. It was like fighting a wall of belief in his lies. The principal scolded me, saying the school didn't tolerate bullying and that I'd be suspended. I pleaded with him not to suspend me, but he shook his head, saying he couldn't overlook it. I begged, tears streaming down my face, telling him I hadn't done anything. He firmly told me I'd be suspended for 10 days to set an example. It hit me hard, and I cried even more, begging him to reconsider. My parents, angry and embarrassed, dragged me out of the office. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to make them understand, but they wouldn't listen. We left the school, my heart heavy with frustration and humiliation. When we got home, things got worse. My dad started packing my stuff. I was shocked and had no idea what was happening. My mom asked what he was doing, but he shouted that he couldn't let me live in the same house as my brother anymore. I cried, pleading with my brother to tell the truth, but he stayed cold. My dad kept packing and threw my suitcase into the foyer. I clung to his legs, begging him not to throw me out. It was a nightmare. He said a bully like me didn't deserve to live in his house and that he'd ask his mother, my grandmother, to come get me if she wanted. It felt like my world was crumbling. I stood there in shock, surrounded by my scattered belongings. Eventually, my grandmother showed up. She helped me pack my things into the car and got me into the passenger seat. Then she went to my parents' door. When my dad opened it, she yelled at him for treating me this way. She warned him that if he ever approached me or tried to contact me again, she'd involve the police or CPS, since what he did could land him in jail. My mother tried to blame me, but my grandmother wasn't having it. She stood her ground, defending me, saying I was just a child who didn't deserve such heartless treatment. For the first time, I saw how powerful my grandmother was. She didn't back down, and she trusted me. We drove away, leaving behind the only home I'd ever known. The pain was indescribable. I remember crying on the bed and not eating, despite my grandmother urging me to. I told her what my brother had done, and she was shocked. She assured me she believed me, and I was glad to have someone on my side. When the 10-day suspension ended, going back to school felt like entering a lion's den. As I walked the halls, classmates gave me judgmental looks, whispers, and side glances. The false accusations still hung in the air. My brother ignored me, acting like I didn't exist. He had made friends who believed his story and saw him as the victim. No matter how much I tried to tell my side, no one listened. I was an outcast, labeled unfairly. Everywhere I went, the classroom, cafeteria, hallways, people looked at me with disdain and mistrust. I became a loner. I'd keep my head down, attend classes, eat lunch alone, and go straight home. I had no friends, and it felt like no one wanted me there. During all this, my parents never called to check on me. My grandmother kept reminding me it wasn't my fault and that things would get better. I graduated high school with good grades and looked forward to college, hoping for a better life. Only when I went to college did I first feel freedom. For the first time, no one was watching over me, comparing grades or competing with me. I met people and made friends with like-minded folks. Despite the emotional scars from my family and peers, I focused on leaving it behind and enjoying college as much as I could. During college, I discovered I had a talent for content writing. I'd always dreamed of becoming a writer, but wasn't sure if it was a sustainable career, so I set the dream aside. To earn some extra money, I started freelancing. I signed up on various platforms and began securing jobs from notable clients, slowly building a portfolio of my work. Throughout college, I kept up this side hustle and never asked my parents for a dime. When I graduated, instead of pursuing a corporate job, I realized I could turn content writing into a full-time career. Thanks to multiple clients and strong professional relationships, I was doing quite well, often getting roped into their new projects. Having a legitimate freelancing career not only made me financially independent, but also allowed me to travel the world as a digital nomad. Traveling helped heal the wounds of my past, even though it wasn't always easy. I saved as much as I could and took a chance on myself. Over the years, I've seen so much of the world, yet there's still so much left to explore. The only person I considered family through all of this was my grandmother, and I absolutely adored her. She was sad when I moved out, but understood my need for independence. Despite my busy schedule, I made it a point to be there for her whenever I could. I'd visit her on weekends, sharing meals, or simply sitting on the porch, talking about everything from childhood memories to recent events. On weekends, I'd spend entire afternoons helping her with household chores or accompanying her on leisurely walks in the local park. Recently, I completed one of the most important projects of my career. I can't mention the brand, but I was incredibly fortunate to write blogs and product descriptions for them. After the project wrapped up, I asked the team to leave positive reviews on my websites, which they happily did. I took screenshots of some of their reviews to post on my Instagram, knowing that working with this brand was a big deal. As expected, other content writers reached out to congratulate me and even shared my posts to spread the word. This led to messages from strangers who needed help with their websites. My relatives noticed this too, and some reached out to congratulate me. Eventually, my college principal contacted me. He'd seen how well I was doing and wanted me to come back for a seminar to talk to students about building a career in content writing. I was nervous. I wasn't great at public speaking, but I decided to take a chance and agreed. Standing before eager faces, sharing my experiences, I felt like my life had come full circle. In my speech, I talked about the struggles I faced and how hard I worked to sustain myself despite tough times. It was incredibly fulfilling to empower others and contribute to the growth of the writing community. Some clips from the seminar started going viral in Facebook groups as people connected with my story. It felt good to finally be recognized for my hard work. Last week, I was invited to speak on a local news channel. The show was about the benefits of content writing, and they wanted me to share my journey and insights with their viewers. I was a bit nervous, but also excited about the opportunity. During the show, I discussed my experiences, the importance of client reviews, and how a simple appreciation post could open doors to incredible opportunities. Reaching a broader audience and inspiring others in the field was both humbling and exhilarating. When the episode aired, I shared some clips on my Instagram, proud to have been invited to a TV show. That's how my relatives and cousins found out how well my career was going. You see, because my parents never talked about me to anyone, they had no idea I was working with popular brands and appearing on TV. Word spread quickly within the family. I guess the TV interview finally reached my parents too, because a few days later, while I was working on another project with my phone on silent, I noticed 6 missed calls from my mom. I was shocked to see her name. It had been years since she'd called me. After all that silence, I couldn't fathom why she was reaching out. Hesitantly, I called her back, and she picked up immediately. "Is everything okay?" I asked. She started congratulating me, and my dad, probably sitting right next to her, jumped into the conversation. They began asking about my life and well-being. I answered their questions without much thought, not realizing where the conversation was heading. Then they started asking how much I was earning these days. I told them it was none of their business. My dad replied that we're family, so I shouldn't feel shy about sharing my income. I said I was doing well financially. Hearing this, my mom began talking about how hard their life was these days. My suspicion grew. The conversation went something like this. Mom, we've been wanting to renovate the house for a while now. It's not in the best shape, but we have no savings left. Okay, your success has given us hope. After seeing your TV interview, we thought maybe you could help us out by paying for the renovations. After all, we're family. You shouldn't hesitate to share some of your earnings with us. We could really use your help. Are you kidding me? I said, incredulous. Why are you asking me for money when you haven't even talked to me for years? I appreciate the congratulations, but I'm not going to help you in any way. My mom said I was being unreasonable, that I needed to support them as family. My dad added that, as my parents, they deserved to be looked after, that it was the least I could do. I was furious. I wanted to tell them exactly what I thought. Then an idea struck me. Instead of just arguing, I'd teach them a lesson they'd never forget. I told my parents I was willing to help them, but only if they agreed to my demands. My dad asked what those were. Without hesitation, I said that if they wanted my help, they had to publicly admit in front of our family and friends that my brother was the one behind the hurtful rumors that ruined my reputation. I wanted them to humiliate my brother, the same way they had humiliated me by believing his lies and manipulations. I wanted them to take responsibility for their actions and acknowledge the pain they had caused. Hearing my condition, my dad questioned why such an admission was necessary. My mom said this was all unnecessary and that we could have a private discussion without involving others. But I stood firm. This condition was non-negotiable, a prerequisite for any assistance they wanted from me in the future. As tensions rose, my dad raised his voice, asserting his role as my father and emphasizing that it was my duty to help my family in need. My mom, in a last-ditch effort, urged me to do the right thing and help them, emphasizing the years they had spent raising me. I couldn't help but find irony in their sudden appeal. I reminded them of the past, that they had kicked me out, and that my grandmother had raised me, not them. They grew more agitated, but I told them firmly that if they wanted to reconnect with me and seek my financial help, the truth needed to be acknowledged publicly, and my brother needed to face consequences for his actions. Since that conversation, my parents have been calling nonstop, but I'm ignoring their calls. I'm starting to regret even calling them back that day. I wonder if I'm wrong for refusing to help my parents at all. Update 1. It's been a whirlwind week since I last shared my story, and the support I've received has been overwhelming. It's comforting to know I'm not alone during this time. I'm glad people agree that I shouldn't engage with my parents or even consider helping them after what they put me through. The reason I gave them such a condition was that I knew it was impossible for them to agree. They love my brother too much, and even if they've realized he lied, they'd never put him through what they did to me. Today, my brother sent me a nasty text after my parents tried to contact me again, and I didn't answer. This is what he wrote. Hey sis, it's been a long time since I saw you, and I can tell you that every day without you has been great. I heard Mom and Dad reached out, and you gave them a crazy ultimatum. They're never going to go through with it. You know that, right? They never loved you, and they'll never do anything to hurt me. I admit I lied about you 15 years ago, but it's been a long time, so stop being selfish and move on. You're unmarried and childless anyway, so why not help them by paying for the house repairs? Do the right thing and be a better daughter. Reading his message felt like a punch to the gut. The audacity to dismiss my struggles and the conditions I set showed his lack of empathy. Trying to guilt-trip me by mentioning I'm unmarried and childless was insensitive. His insinuation that I should prioritize their needs over my own well-being was offensive and highlighted how little he thought of me. Fueled by frustration and a desire for justice, I decided it was time to reveal the truth that had been hidden for too long. I sat down to write an email to my parents and close relatives, sharing the painful details of my childhood and the unfair treatment I endured growing up. In the email, I described the strict and oppressive environment under my parents' roof and how they treated me compared to my twin brother. I detailed the malicious and untrue rumors my brother spread about me at school, which led to severe consequences and damaged my reputation. I wrote about how my parents had kicked me out and how, if not for my grandmother, I might have ended up on the streets. At the end, I asked everyone to read the message my brother had sent me. I attached a screenshot where he admitted to lying about me. It was a clear confession, and I hoped it would expose the lies that had persisted for too long. I sent the email just an hour ago, and I know all hell will break loose once my parents and brother read it. I'll update you on how my family reacts. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. As you can imagine, my family erupted after receiving the email. My parents faced criticism from relatives who were previously unaware of the extent of the favoritism and emotional abuse. Many family members reached out to me, saying they had no idea and apologized for not being there for me. My brother and parents bombarded me with a barrage of angry, abusive messages. It got so bad that I consulted a lawyer who sent them a cease and desist letter. It warned them not to contact me or face legal consequences. I guess this scared them because they've stopped reaching out. My grandmother thinks I did the right thing by revealing the truth and supports me 100%. She's the only person who matters to me, so I'm glad she has my back. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I'm happy to report that things are going well. Professionally, my content writing business is thriving. Invitations to speak at seminars and podcasts keep rolling in, solidifying my position as a respected figure in my field. I'm as close to my grandmother as ever. I took a week off work recently to spend quality time with her. She's into gardening these days and taught me all about the flowers and herbs in her garden. The moments we share, whether over meals, deep conversations, or just enjoying each other's company, are some of my most cherished memories. My family hasn't contacted me since they received the lawyer's letter, and I'm glad they're staying away. Personally, I've started going to therapy to work on healing myself. I think this will be my last update for now.
Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love and protect us the most become the ones who leave the deepest scars. Walking away from that pain is one thing, but standing your ground when they try to come back and rewrite the narrative is something entirely different. It's not about holding grudges or seeking revenge. It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to let anyone, even family, take advantage of the strength it took to rebuild your life. The past shapes us, but it doesn't define us. True freedom comes when you stop seeking approval from those who never truly saw your value and start living for yourself. Standing up to those who failed you isn't just about justice, it's about reclaiming the peace and dignity they once took away. And sometimes, the most powerful answer is simply walking away, because your future doesn't belong to them anymore. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means everything. And if you're enjoying this content, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more incredible stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.